God told Joshua, drive all of the people out of the promised land. And that included the area that would have been the city of Canaan. Sidon, I'm sorry. Even the area of Sidon, that should have been under Jewish control. Because that's part of the area that God told, but they never got that far. They never took it. And so the gods of that geographic area held on to it. Why am I talking about all this? Because Naaman asked for dirt. He asked for land. Because if it was land that came from there, then Yahweh could inhabit that land legally based on the system that God set up. If you look at the Table of Nations, which happened after the Tower of Babel incident, it said that God divided the lands among angels to be ruled by them. And they screwed it up so badly and started taking on worship to themselves that in Psalm 82, he collects them all together and he tells them, look, you're immortal. You're supposed to live forever. What are you doing? You're letting them worship you. You're corrupting them. You're giving them things you're not supposed to give them, like information and technology. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're not doing what I told you to do. And therefore, even though you are immortal, you're going to die like men. You're going to have an end like human beings do. He also took a bunch of them, the ones that had rebelled earlier, that caused the great flood. And it said that those beings he put in Tartarus, which is translated in many Bibles as hell. He placed them there for an eventual day of judgment. Those spirits that are there are where we get the term demons. And there are also spirits that are not there that are demons. We'll go into this for real in a few weeks. He wanted land because this guy, this general, understood the principle that land is is controlled by spirits. You go to a different place and you feel a different spirit. Ever been in New Orleans? I have many times. New Orleans has a whole different spirit to it. It's just a different Chicago. There are geographic entities that are in control of different areas. Naaman said, I want dirt. And then he explains why. Then Naaman said, if not, please let there be given to your servant, him, 2 mule loads of earth. For from now on, your servant will not offer burnt offering or sacrifice to any god but Yahweh. What does that have to do with dirt? We'll get there. In this matter, may Yahweh pardon your servant. Pardon Naaman. When my master goes into the house of Rimmon to worship there, leaning on his arm. In other words, the guy who was the king was old and he was feeble, and he trusted him to go in and worship. You know, they had trusted servants, and if you're doing something intimate as worshiping your God, well, you're prostrating yourself. You're bowing down. Well, that's a good time to get attacked and killed if you're the king. So the kings of all of these nations would always take somebody they really trusted when they were bathing, when they were going to the bathroom, when they were worshiping. They always took somebody that they could trust to literally have their back, to make sure, to guard their six, as they say in the army. It says, in this matter, may the Lord pardon your servant. May Yahweh pardon me. Because it's part of my job to go in with the king when he goes to worship. And I bow myself in the house of Rimmon. When I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, the Lord, Yahweh, pardon your servant in this matter. But that's my job. That's part of what I have to do, is go in and bow before this God that I no longer believe in. I believe in Yahweh. Yahweh is my God, not this other God. So Elisha said to him, Shalom, go in peace. He was saying, look, God understands your situation. God understands that this is what you do. And what he wanted the earth for was to put it into that temple, to lay it down, so that when he had to lead the king in, so that the king could bow down and worship, and he could bow down and worship, if he's on Yahweh's ground, then he knows that he's good between he and Yahweh. Does anyone here know anything about the building of United States embassies anywhere in the world? This is one of those geek facts you pick up on cable television late at night.
Do they bring?
They bring United States soil for the foundation of every single United States embassy everywhere in the world.
Wow.
They'll take a whole city block, they'll remove all of the soil to the bedrock, remove it, and replace it with good old American soil. So that when you're an American citizen and you walk through the gates of that, you are on your homeland.
Wow.
You're literally on your homeland. That principle isn't an American thing. It is a biblical thing. If you are on that ground, you are attached to, your citizenship is to that. So what he was saying was, I am pledging my allegiance to Yahweh because I've put my faith in this God, and this God didn't let me down, and now this is my man. This is it. We got this, right? If you want to keep reading the story about Naaman and Gehazi and all that, it's an interesting read, but it doesn't not directly apply to Luke chapter 4. So I just printed it out because because I'm a geek and I think it's interesting. You know, we get into some weird things in the Bible. The Jehoram was the king that Naaman went to see. His father was Ahab, and his mother was Jezebel. But he was the king at the time. And it said that he was actually better than Ahab, which is kind of like saying not a whole lot, but it does say that he was better than Ahab. It gets weird when you're reading the Old Testament because sometimes you'll see somebody's name and a chapter later, it's a different name, but it's the same person. And Jehoram and Joram, if you look through the table of kings that I printed out, it's the last page in your handouts. You'll see, I think it says Joram.
Do you have any more handouts?
But no, but I'll give you mine when we're done because I left my notes on my desk at home.
Again?
But yeah, again, no. Last week I left my Bible and my glasses. Who knows?
The week before you go again.
It's always something. Yeah. So you'll see place names, and they'll call it one thing in one chapter, and 2 chapters later they're calling it by a totally different name, and so it gets to be confusing if you don't do a little digging. You're like, wait, how is it that this guy killed the king? Because Jehu killed Jehoram. But it's like, if he killed Jehoram, what happened to Joram? But they're the same people. And the Bible's just filled with stuff like that. It also gets weird even in Jesus' disciples. Because sometimes he's Peter, sometimes he's Simon. There's another guy named Simon, I think. I don't know. There's all the chipmunks are there. There's 2 Judases. There's just lots and lots of people. Guess what? We are at the end where I get to the punchline of 3 weeks of my incredible jokes. Jumping Japanese Jesus.